Dubious ones, welcome back to the channel for some more Marvel Rivals. Today I'm going to teach you how to master Venom in about 5 minutes, as well as show you his most devastating combo, which you can see on the screen now. So if you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more Marvel Rivals content, and if you found this video helpful, please feel free to drop a like. Now let's get right into it. So the first thing you're going to want to do, being a Venom, is getting used to using your vertical space. He's a very unique character in the fact that he can climb and run on walls and has a wonderful dive attack called Frenzied Arrival, where you're able to hit multiple targets at once. It does a maximum of 65 damage when hit directly, and does have a little bit of damage fall off the further from the center the enemy is hit. So you really want to get used to climbing on the walls, running on the walls, and using them versus just swinging in at the enemy and diving down from that. Both are very effective. But with the cooldown times, it's best to try and use your vertical space whenever possible, versus just always using the swing. But unlike Spider-Man, Venom only gets one swing charge versus the multiple that Spider-Man has, and it is your best tool to get out of sticky situations. So always mind your cooldowns and don't be scared to swing in for the dive as long as you have lots of health left or your E ability, the Symbiotic Resilience, off cooldown, so that you're able to hopefully stay in the fight long enough to get the cooldown back if you need to get out of it. Now, speaking of his E ability, the Symbiotic Resilience, this will give you an overshield, directly correlated to the amount of health you have left. So if you're at max health and you use it, you're only going to get 50 HP. And it's an overshield that does deplete rather quickly. Whereas if you have very low health, it's going to give you a massive overshield. So the idea is you're going to want to pop it when you're as low health as possible. So once you start getting below that 200 health mark, if you're not getting tons of heals really quickly, then you pop your overshield to be able to get out of that fight. Now, with the basics out of the way, I'm going to show you Venom's most effective combo, which includes the use of his ultimate. So if you're not familiar with how Venom's ultimate works, it is similar to his E ability in the fact that it will give him an overshield, but that overshield is not based on your health. It's actually based on how much damage you do to the enemy team and how many targets you're able to hit with your ultimate. So the squishier the character, the lower health they have, it is going to do less damage. The way his damage works with the ultimate is it does exactly half of the remaining health of whoever it hits, plus an additional 50 damage. That's why you don't often see it killing an enemy, but it does leave them often very weak. So if you're going into a group of tanks, even at full health, the idea is you want to hit them when they have quite high health, because it will take away 50% of their health plus an additional 50 HP instantly. Now that you know how his ultimate works, let's show you the combo. So you want to first dive into enemies, either with the swing or from climbing from a wall, and then you want to use the right click as soon as you hit them for the cellular corrosion to grab the enemies you hit, then immediately go into your ultimate, the Feast of the Abyss, because when done correctly, this will kill the squishies, meaning your supports and DPS characters, whereas if you hit the ultimate a little bit too late and the explosion from the right click goes off before you hit the ultimate, then it will leave them one shot as opposed to finishing them off. The exception for DPS characters, your duelists that will survive this combo, are the 370 health enemies. So if you're playing against a Wolverine or a Mr. Fantastic, they will survive with about 10 to 20 HP, but this will take out any other DPS or any other support character. So very, very strong ability. And it is also very effective against tanks as well. As you'll see, against a full health group at 808 at 50 HP, this will bring them all the way down to 260 HP. Now, it's not only strong because it does so much damage to a single target, but you can hit multiple enemies at once with this combo, often giving your team a chance to get a team wipe. But always remember, characters often will have a get out of jail free ability. So if say you're against a Winter Soldier and he has the ability to give himself overshields, well, he may survive if he times his overshields correctly, leaving him maybe one shot. But if you're against, say, a support like a Loki, well, they can just drop their shield and completely negate your ultimate for not only him, but any of his surrounding teammates that are within the vicinity of his shield ability. So while it is incredibly strong, just be aware that there are many counters to this combo. So always use your game sense to know when it's a good time and when it's not a good time to utilize the combo. Lastly, we'll go over your bread and butter attacks. This is largely how you'll be playing when your team is up and you're engaging in a team fight, as you have the rare ability as a tank to to be able to swing easily into their backline and jump at their squishies, into their supports, either from walls or ceilings or from your swing, and then just dive right into there. Here, the combo is going to be very similar to your ultimate combo, just without the ultimate. Once you dive at the enemy team, hit your right click, then follow up with your tendril attack, the Dark Predation, with your left click. And the left click is actually more effective and has way more range than Venom's melee attack. So there's not really a good time to ever really use Venom's melee attack, as it does less damage and it's also not nearly as ranged as his regular left click. So that being said, you're basically going to want to constantly just pick away at their back line until your health gets low. Then hit the E button for an overshield, maybe finish off a target or two if they're super weak and you're able to, and then just get out of there with your swing, get back to your backline, get healed up, and then you're just going to rinse and repeat. Certain fights and team-ups, you may be with another tank on the front lines just holding the line, but as a rule of thumb, Venom's best used most effectively as a dive tank, diving at their squishier characters, trying to get a pick, then zipping back for healing whenever needed. Lastly, I'm just going to show you some quick damage numbers here. Important thing to know is your right click ability is going to be something you're going to be using quite often, as it's able to attach to multiple enemies, but it doesn't hold them or slow them in any way. It only does 5 damage at base for attaching to them, so you do need to stay close to the enemies you hit with it long enough for the explosion to go off. Once the explosion goes off, it does 80 damage, so a total for 85 damage for the attack. His tendrils, if all of them hit, do about 160 damage, where his base melee only hits for about 30 damage. Now, his dive attack does 65 damage if hit directly in the center, where it does have some damage fall off away from the center if the enemy's still hit, and will hit about roughly around 50 damage. And then once again, finally, his ultimate ability will hit an enemy for exactly 50% of their remaining HP. This includes overshields, and then do that additional 50 damage on top of that. Now, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Marvel Rivals content, and I will catch you all in the next one. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, deuces.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.